It looks like things are really coming together for the Las Vegas Raiders. Minority owner Tom Brady, GM John Spytek, and head coach Pete Carroll said they're trying to win now, and the moves they're making so far indicate that's what they're trying to do. They've come in, and so far who they've cut, who they let walk in free agency, who they've kept, who they've traded for, and who they're signing in free agency all makes sense. They're not going to satisfy everyone, so there are Raider fans crying left and right over what they did and didn't do, but look at the roster. It's better than it was a month ago. They can do the things they want to do with the players, too. Tom Telesco, the Raiders' last GM, drafted well, but didn't do too well in other parts of the offseason as a whole. But I think the law firm of Brady, Spytek, and Carroll are killing it right now. The Raiders are definitely making the right cuts to start this offseason, starting with quarterback Gardner Minshew. When the Raiders first signed him last year, I thought he'd be a backup to Aiden O'Connell, so I wasn't too concerned. It was when he was named starter that I cringed. Then I cringed even more along with all of you when he started playing, because he was awful in 2024. I'm not even going to go over his numbers. All you need to know is he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. Acquisitions like this are why I said Telesco didn't do very well outside of drafting last year. Center Andre James got to go too. The 3-year, $24 million deal he signed after the 2023 season was baffling to me. All I can say is that was another one of Telesco's blunders. I don't remember a point in his time with the Raiders that he looked like he's worth that kind of money. He certainly didn't look like it in 2023. In 2024, he was even worse. Guards couldn't climb to the second level in their zone blocking scheme because it took too long for him to gain control of his man. Then in the power gap scheme, he got pancaked. Now for the key losses in free agency. The first key loss the Raiders took was middle linebacker Robert Spillane. The New England Patriots got him for $37.5 million over 3 years. I really love Spillane, but I also understand the Raiders got outbid by a team that had the most salary cap space coming in and the quarterback still on his rookie contract. Fellow linebacker Divine Diablo got a 2-year, $14 million deal from the Atlanta Falcons, but he never lived up to the hype I and others put on him. Losing safety Trayvon Merrick was more painful to me because the Raiders drafted and developed him into a do-it-all safety. He played the run, blitz, covered opposing tight ends, and the deep part of the field. He'll be missed, but he cost the Carolina Panthers $51 million for 3 years. Then there's Nathan Natural Hobbs. It hurts me to lose him too, especially since he's the best slot corner in the NFL. But how much do you pay a guy that isn't available much of the time? He played a full 16-game season as a rookie in 2021, and that was it. From there, he only played 12 games a year. The Green Bay Packers chipped up with $48 million over 4 years, though. Who the Raiders kept started last week with star edge rusher Max Crosby. They signed him to a 3-year, $106.5 million extension. It wasn't urgent because Crosby was already under contract, but the guaranteed money on it ran out. Put that together with the fact that there's a new regime in town, and that can make a player wonder if he's still in the team's long-term plans. Funny things happen when new regimes come to town, no matter how good you are. That's why Crosby sounded unsure about remaining a Raider at the beginning of this offseason. He always wanted to remain one. Like he said himself, he has the Raider shield tatted on his body. Either way, the situation ended well, and the new regime showed him that he isn't just a part of the Raiders' future plans, he's a priority in them, and he's still the face of the franchise. Crosby being the face of the franchise is obviously good for the culture, as he's been the main part of the Raiders' culture change. He represents the quote-unquote standard the Raiders want to reach in terms of effort and pursuit of excellence. If the Raiders can keep getting talent in that building working as hard as Crosby, there's no telling what they can do. Interior defensive lineman Adam Butler was a good keep too. He was a big part of what the Raiders did on defense the second half of 2023. He had a 5-sack season that year and followed it with another 5-sack season last year. Those are good totals for an interior defensive lineman, especially when you consider all the dub teams they take, and Butler took plenty. Everyone in the NFL is looking at the Philadelphia Eagles for the blueprint to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Raiders really came up with that blueprint in 2023. That blueprint was actually pretty simple. It's put heat on Patrick Mahomes all day and bring it from everywhere, from the edges to the interior. When you bring that heat from all directions, Mahomes doesn't have anywhere to go. He's trapped, and when you have him trapped, he'll throw you the ball a few times. Yeah, his kryptonite is the same kryptonite that every quarterback before, during, and after him has ever, is having, or will have. A good pass rush beats a good quarterback, and the Raiders are deep in interior pass rushers and edge rushers now. Butler just got $26.5 million for 3 years, and I'm glad he's staying. I'm so glad the Raiders were able to keep Malcolm Koonce. His emergence in 2023 was the biggest reason why the Raider defense was number 1 in the NFL over the second half of the 2023 season, which is what gave so many Raider fans hope. He racked up 8 sacks over that time frame because then head coach Antonio Pierce let him play. He destroyed the one-on-one blocking he got with the double teams going to Crosby. He was supposed to do more last year with Christian Wilkins getting signed to take more double teams away, but he was out all year. Wilkins missed a good portion of the season too. His and Wilkins' injuries were probably the biggest reasons why the Raider defense was such a disappointment. They were supposed to get Crosby and that defense over the top. Kuntz is back for another season though for $12 million to prove he's back and healthy and can stay healthy. Both sides deserve credit for making the fairest deal that can be made for both sides in a situation like this. Kuntz is probably the guy on that defense that I'm most excited to see come back. Crosby doesn't count. He was already in the contract. And of course, the Raiders made a hell of a trade for quarterback Geno Smith. They got him for a third-round pick. Smith actually requested the trade after turning down an extension to stay with the Seattle Seahawks. There are a lot of you that don't realize how good of a quarterback he is. Brady does, and of course Carroll does too. He turned his career around under Carroll. That's why he was the next option after the Raiders couldn't get Matthew Stafford. The 2013 first-round picks process started in 2015, his year 3, as he was starting to look promising until a teammate broke his jaw in a dispute over money. Then after sitting on the New York Giants and Los Angeles Chargers bench, he eventually got to start for the Seahawks. In his 3 years as their starter, he went 27-22, including a playoff appearance. Smith has been the most accurate quarterback in the NFL over the last 3 years too. He's been in the super tough NFC West division with the San Francisco 49ers and Los Angeles Rams at that, so coming into today's AFC West isn't going to be a big deal for him. He'll be ready for whatever's thrown at him. The Raiders still need to address the trenches, but they got a start on it just before the legal tampering period. They signed guard Alex Cappa to a 2-year deal for $11 million with $5.5 million guaranteed. This can turn out in a number of ways. He could be a starter and really help. Spytek and Brady know him from their days in Tampa Bay, where he was a starting guard for an offensive line that only allowed Brady to get sacked 23 times. He was a good run blocker too. If the Raiders get that guy, it's on. He can also end up being a death piece if the Raiders get a couple of beasts in the draft. Kappa played well in Tampa Bay and with the Cincinnati Bengals at first, but then he started getting injured and it affected his performance. So much so that he ended up giving up 8 sacks in 2024. He's already not the best fit for the zone blocking scheme the Bengals use a great majority of the time, so the Bengals cut him, and here he is with the Raiders. If for whatever the reason Kappa can't stay healthy or play well, it'll be a short stint for him. He only has 1 guaranteed year on his contract, so he can be cut after that. Last year on day 1 of the legal tampering period, the Raiders got the big fish of free agency. It's just unfortunate Wilkins missed 12 of 17 games last year with the torn ACL. On day 1 of the legal tampering period this year, the Raiders signed one of their own and made an under-the-radar signing with safety Jeremy Chin. This won't be a big drop-off if at all. The 6'3", 220-pounder is versatile just like Merrick. He racked up 117 tackles, 7 for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 5 pass breakups, and an interception. Merrick's totals were 104 tackles, 5 for a loss, a sack, no forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 10 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. Looking at their stat lines, you can see they're basically the same player. Only Chin's a little better against the run and Merrick's a little better against the pass. Chin's coverage skills are still getting better though. With a 4.45 40 to 4.52 for Merrick and a 41-inch vertical leap to 33 inches for Merrick, Chin's a little better athlete too. You never know, Graham could develop Chin into something a little better than Merrick at half the price. First, the Raiders replaced Merrick with a guy with a similar skill set before I could mourn him. Then they replaced Spillane with a guy with a similar skill set before I could mourn him. Remember how Spillane was a big-time run-stuffing middle linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Then the Raiders took him and made him passable in coverage and he became a Raider hero? Well, it looks like they're going to try to do that again, this time with Landon Roberts. Roberts runs a 4.60 40 to Spillane's 4.77 and has a vertical leap of 36 inches to 32.5 for Spillane. With the speed he has, Roberts just might be better in coverage than Spillane once Graham and company get a chance to develop him a little bit. He's going to cost the Raiders less than a third of the $11 million a year for 3 years Spillane's going to cost the New England Patriots. That in itself makes it well worth it. Roberts and the Raiders made a deal for just 1 year and $3 million. That has prove it written all over it, right? Yeah, I really like them prove it deals. That's when players always bring it all year. While I was making this video, the Raiders added corner Eric Stokes, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. He's a former first-round pick, so we'll soon see about him. The Raiders are having a great offseason up to this point though. No superstars or big flashy names, those guys cost a lot of money. The Raiders had some of their own to keep on defense, and they did keep the ones they had to keep. The ones they couldn't keep, they replaced quickly with similar players for way less money. From that, you can see the days of the Raiders overpaying are over. The Raiders even got a pretty good quarterback at a really good price. That sets them up pretty well for the draft. Thank you for watching. See you next time.